بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين. Is it moving? Okay. So bay fasid, quick recap is when there's a fasad or there's a problem in other than the arkanul bay. And then we have the four causes of fasad. Remember, in some kitabs you may read 7 causes, 10 causes, but it's more or less summarized in this. If a person engages in a bay fasid, number one, there's no intiqadul milkiyah. If there's qabd, that will result in intiqadul milkiyah, but it will result in a milk khabith. And milk khabith means that although there's milkiyah there, it's not jaiz to use that. Now, if we take the same example of, selling the laptop and then collecting it tomorrow. So let's say I've sold the laptop, or I've bought the laptop from Mufti Saab, and I said that, look, we agree on $300. I said, look, I'll pay you in a few days' time. I'll pay you later on. Now, that's jahala fi ada'i thaman. Is a few days, couple of days, or is it like a couple of weeks? So that's a bit fasid. The laptop's still at Mufti Saab's house. I'm going to collect it the next morning, and I pass away. Does that go into inheritance? No. Because, remember, because it's a bit fasid, there's no intiqadul milkiyah. There's no intiqadul milkiyah. In a bay sahih, there was intiqadul milkiyah. In a bay fasid, there's no intiqadul milkiyah. Okay. Let's say that, what would happen in this scenario? I asked Mufti Saab that, do you want, I'd like to buy the laptop for $300. Mufti Saab goes quiet. Teaches lesson, pray dhuhr, pray asr, pray maghrib. At night he says to me, you know what? I've sold the laptop to you. Come and collect it tomorrow. I pass away at night. What happens? Is that going to be inheritance? Why not? Well, let's say I even take the laptop. So I've gone to his house and I've collected the laptop. So I've got there's qabd taken place. Will that go into my inheritance? Why not? Because there was adamul irtibat. This became batil. So although I have taken qabd, Sharia doesn't consider this qabd. And therefore there's no bay' between us, therefore there's no intiqadul milkiyah. This laptop still belongs to Mufti Saab. Is that okay? Right. The next question that then arises is in a milk khabith. Milk khabith. What's the first thing you have to do? You have to cancel the contract. It's wajib on both parties to cancel the contract. This is obviously once you realize that this is a bit fasid. So because there was intiqadul milkiyah, you have to cancel the contract and return whatever was taken or given. Okay. What happens if it becomes mustahlak? Mustahlak means that you can't return it. It's been used up now. I want you to find this out, inshallah. Okay. But if the mabi' is mustahlak in a bay' fasid, does the buyer have to pay the thaman? So does he pay the qimah or the thaman? So I bought this, let's say I bought a packet of bread. In the same example, I said, I'll pay you later. We know it's bay' fasid. I didn't know it's bay' fasid. I went on home and I ate it. And I've still got to pay the money. From a shari'i perspective, let's say the packet of bread was $3. Do I pay the thaman of $3 or do I pay the qimah of the market value of the bread? Now, in packets of bread and stuff like that may not make such a difference. But let's say, let's say the laptop. Let's say the laptop is worth $1,000. But we've agreed to buy and sell for 500. And it was a bay' fasid. For whatever reason, one of these 4 reasons occurred. It was a bay' fasid. I'm on the way home and someone steals a laptop from me. So it's now mustahlak. There's nothing I can do. He's run off with it. So it's mustahlak in that sense. Do I now need to pay the seller the thaman, which was 500, or do I pay the qimah, which is 1,000? Well, Mufsat's going to answer now. But see if you can still find the ibarat. Okay? So you know specifically what you're looking in a bay' fasid. If the mabi' becomes mustahlak, are you going to pay the thaman or are you going to pay the qimah? Okay. Okay. The next thing is al-bay' al-mawquf. A bay' mawquf is like
what would it do like in Western countries and many majority of the types terms and conditions that shall passive really difficult to avoid? Is there
such as
for example when you buy something on installments and there are related payments penalties there?
Okay. The late payment penalty is actually riba. So that doesn't invalidate the contract because that's something external. So so it doesn't make, sorry, probably use the word wrong word. It doesn't make the bay' batil. So although there's riba, it doesn't make the bay' batil because this is an external condition which is being added. Okay. Now, if you think about it, the muqtada al-aqd itself is not being contravened here. In a late payment, the muqtada al-aqd is saying that you must pay within the agreed installment dates. So the condition of interest is to ensure that you pay within that time frame. So that doesn't actually contradict the muqtada al-aqd. The problem you've got is agreeing to pay interest. So that's a separate condition to the shartun la yaqtadihi al-aqd.
So when you agree that if you don't pay on time, it pays.
No, it's a shart fasid, but it doesn't, from what I understand, it doesn't call fasad in the bay because it's shartun yaqtadihi al-aqd. Not the concept of riba. I'm saying that, okay, let's say that the condition is that you pay on a monthly basis, but you must pay on the date. That's shartun yaqtadihi al-aqd. Now the person is saying, if you don't pay, then you'll be making an extra payment. So the initial part of the condition is shartun yaqtadihi al-aqd. The condition of the riba is an external element to this. So the way I understand this is, although the problem is with agreeing to pay interest, not so much that it contradicts the muqtada al-aqd. Is there a fine, do you understand the fine difference between the two? Because no. What I'm saying here is that, you know, the shartul la yaqtadihi al-aqd, there has to be an extra manfa'ah for the ba'i' or for the mushtari.
The buyer will benefit from the
No, then there's an extra manfa'ah for the ba'i' or mushtari, which is beyond the muqtada al-aqd. What the buyer is saying here is that you must pay within the time frame. That is yaqtadihi al-aqd. Now he's saying if you don't, if you fail to pay, so the mushtari is doing something that he's not supposed to be doing, or he's not done something that he's supposed to have done. So because he's failed on his part, then that's why the extra payment is coming. Now, you know, one of the reasons I'm saying this is Muftaqi Uthmani Hafidhullah, he did face quite a bit of criticism for this, unfortunately, and by the South African ulama, for the wa'ad iltizami. What would happen? What happens in Islamic banks is that, also in conventional banks, is there's compound interest. So you have to make your payments. If, let's say, 6-7 months pass and you've not paid and you've not made contact and so forth, they start doubling there's compound interest. So you're paying interest on your late payments. Now, what does an Islamic bank do? What does an Islamic bank do? Because an Islamic bank also needs to ensure that the clients are paying on time. So they adopted the same position as the conventional banks about a late payment penalty. A late payment penalty. But the way they circumvented this was the late payment penalty must be paid to a third party. So although there was a condition that if you make a late payment, you will have to give X amount in charity, that is also a condition. There is also a condition, but that was there as a deterrent. So the first point is that the condition of paying on time is shartun yaqtadihi al-aqd. The second part is an extra payment which is being made. And that's a riba element. So now the riba element obviously is problematic. That's totally haram. And that's why one of the suggestions that the Muftaqi Sahib and others gave was that, the late payment penalty is something which will be agreed on by both parties, just like here is a condition. But in order to circumvent the riba element, that late payment penalty can't go to the Islamic bank, it has to go to another charity. And that's why they call this wa'ad iltizami. It's a self-imposed promise that if I make a late payment, then I will pay to this charity. Now, whether we call this a self-imposed promise or we call this a stipulation of the contract, that's exactly what it is. Because the bank's only going to give you that, whatever the transfer of the funds, if you sign that contract and sign that paper which says that in case of late payment, I will pay X amount, I will pay this charity X amount. So even in that masala, it never caused fasad in the bay'. So although the Islamic bank stipulates a condition that if you make a late payment, you will pay something, it doesn't cause fasad in the bay' itself.
But they can't say just because the buyer wants to benefit for the mukhrij, but here in this case, still out of the benefit.
And that's what I'm saying. Here it's a concept of riba. It's a concept of riba that causes a problem here. Now, what really, if you think about another way, is what the seller is saying is that if you make a late payment, the price is going to increase. So whether we call it a late payment penalty, it's a price which is going to increase. So again, that's where you've got jahala. So you've got a problem, but it depends how the condition is stipulated. And yes, your example is correct. If it's you will be paying a late payment penalty and that will come to me, there you've got the fasad and the riba. But if that late payment penalty is, for example, going to a third party, there you've got scope.
But if it is going to the seller, this buyer will become passive.
No, it will most likely become fasid. But I think this is where we'd probably have to use, again, what Muftaqi Sahib says about the concept of urf, that we're now dealing with organizations and sellers that have these contracts and these agreements in place. If we don't agree to them, they won't sell to us. Now, majority of our sellers, exactly that's how they behave. So it's like a khafud dararain here. So in most installments, they'll have certain conditions. But because of need, you'll have to we allow it based on the condition that you pay within time and so forth. And just like the credit card issue, we're agreeing to pay interest, but yes, you can take out a credit card on the condition that you will be paying on time. So the problem is that with this condition that you just mentioned, is we are now dealing with people who don't see a problem with that. So non-Muslims. So either we say that, okay, the bay is fasid, end of story, we're not going to, or then, because of the context that we're living in, you agree to that condition. Understand? Yeah.
Shaykh, if a person he knows that he will not do the late payment, he's very punctual, but signing that particular agreement, knowing that there's this term there,
see, this is where those ulama, and I believe Mufti Ibrahim Desai rahmatullah was also of the opinion about credit cards.
Yeah.
Credit cards wouldn't be different because there's only part involved, who is from who that لا تفسد بشرط فاسد as opposed to buy it تفسد بشرط فاسد. There's a difference between the buy and
No, I think the question is more to do with the agreement to pay riba. So I believe Mufti Ibrahim Desai rahmatullah alayhi gave the fatwa. I could be wrong that it's not jaiz to take out credit cards because you are agreeing in principle to pay interest. Whether you end up paying interest or not is a different story. But in principle, you are agreeing to pay interest, and therefore it's not jaiz.
You agree upon it. Even though you're sure that you won't get that time, you'll have enough. People, they get. And the second thing, the next thing has been getting the loan from the university. They say if you get your $47,000 earning, then only you pay us back with increase. Otherwise, we won't take the money back. Again, signing that agreement, would it be making it possible?
It wouldn't, exactly because of what Mufti Sahib said, that certain contracts become invalid by an invalid condition. So bay' is one of them. So if you have an invalid condition, that impacts the contract itself. Other contracts, hiba is one of them also, that they don't become fasid by an invalid condition. Qard is one of them also. So although you've got an invalid condition, that has no impact on this aqd itself. The element of agreeing to pay interest, again, is a separate issue. So it's like, for example, someone saying that I'll sell you this on the condition that you drink, one glass of alcohol. So buying and selling that product is completely fine. You're buying a laptop here. But the seller said on the condition that you drink one glass of alcohol. Or if you don't pay me, then you have to drink one glass of alcohol. What impact does that have on this? No, we're talking about agreeing to drink alcohol. Irrespective of whether he's fasad or not, are you allowed to agree to engage in haram? That's what the whole discussion is. Okay, are you allowed to agree in principle to engage in haram? Now, Mufti Qisab and others, I think they've taken a broad approach that, look, we're living in a Western economy. There are so many things that will cause fasad in debate. For example, guarantees and warranties. Okay, and so many products that you buy, the seller will guarantee it that if something goes wrong, within 1 year we'll replace it for you. Now, that's a condition that you're buying it with. So if something goes wrong with my laptop, they'll replace it for me. So in principle, shartun la yaqtadihi al-aqd. In principle, that's what it is. Because there's a manfa'ah to the mushtari here. So in principle, that would cause fasad to the bay'. But because of urf, you go ahead with it. I mean, this is the fatwa of mutaqisa. That because of urf, you just go ahead with it. Because if you don't, there's very little you can buy. It is, and this is why, you know, when it comes to masail of buyu, they are so progressive. Salah, in the time of the Prophet sallallahu in the time of the A'immatul Islam, and Salah today is more or less the same. Nothing's really going to change. Yeah, a few masail of qibla and stuff like this is going to change. Fasting in those days and fasting is more or less the same. But buyu is very different to them. That's the first thing, as in how bay is conducted. The second thing is, remember, we are now living within a global economy. If we stick to the clear text of the kitabs, trust me, there is very little that you can engage in buying and selling, even between Muslims themselves, simply because of the way the economy works. And this is why, number one, the approach that Mufti Qisa and others have taken is combining the madhahib to see, okay, what's flexible in which madhab, and using that as a basis. So, the IOFI, the accounting and auditing organization, Islamic financial institutions based in Bahrain, IOFI. They are the ones that set the standards for Islamic or Islamic banks and Islamic financial institutions. المعايير الشرعية, the Shari'i standards. So again, when Mufti Qisa is on the board of that, he's actually more senior. When you look at their ma'ayir, their standards, that's what they've done. They've taken the fatwa from different madhahib, because that's the only way it's going to work. The whole concept of wa'ad, in principle, wa'ad is not enforceable. If I say that, look, I promise that I'll deliver the laptop to you by tomorrow, and if I don't, I'll give you £10 back. Now that's a wa'ad. Even if I don't deliver the laptop to you tomorrow, there's no shart, it's a wa'ad that I'm making. If I don't deliver the laptop to you tomorrow, by principle, you can't force me, because a wa'ad is non-enforceable. It's غير لازم قضاء. Diyanatan, yes. On the day of Qiyamah, I'll be responsible. But the Qadi can't come to me and say, Ibrahim, pay him, you never deliver the laptop. Because the Qadha has nothing to do with this. Yes, in the Maliki madhab, there are some aqwal, a wa'ad is enforceable qada'an. So the Qadi can get involved, that you promised to do this, you have to do it now. So that's a fatwa that they've taken from the Maliki madhab. There's some ibarat in the Hanafi madhab which also support this. But principle is taken from the Maliki madhab. So in so many scenarios, what we realize is that they've taken the qawl in between madhahib. The whole concept of al-bay' bit-ta'ati. Al-bay' bit-ta'ati. The Shafi'i madhab is very strict on this. The classical Shafi'iyya said that you can't engage in bay' bit-ta'ati. There has to be ijab and qabul. So you have to go to the shop and say, I am buying this, and the qabul must take place from the seller. How many times does that happen when you go to buy a packet of bread? Exactly. So what the Fuqaha Shafi'iyya do is they give fatwa on those that opinion within the Shafi'i method that say bit-ta'ati is valid. So this is something that, because we are living within the economy, we just have to accept. If we try and stick to those, the clear ibarat of the Fuqaha about, these things, it'll be very difficult to engage in certain contracts. Okay. Bay' mawquf. Bay' mawquf is when a contract is dependent on something else. So what happens in a bay' mawquf the base shurut are found, but something is stopping. Okay, so in some kitabs you'll also see this as shurutun nafadh. So the arkan are valid, there's no jahala, but there's something stopping the bay having its impact. Okay, ما توقف نفاذه على إجازة غير العاقد. So bay موقوف is when the implementation of the bay is dependent on somebody that's not actually contracting. So I'm buying or I'm contracting with you, but for some reason it's dependent on him allowing this. So ما توقف نفاذه على إجازة غير العاقد. We are the عاقد. Ijaz is coming from a third party. When would that happen? ويشمل بيع الفضول ملك غيره وبيع الصبي المميز. بيع الفضول. This laptop doesn't belong to me. This one here. But I sell it to Mufti Sahab. Now there's أهلية التعاقد, there's إيجاب قبول. We know what the mabi is, we know what the thaman is, there's no ja'ala, everything is clear. What's the problem though? It's not my laptop. So this is bay'ul fuduli. So there's nothing wrong in the transaction. Maulana Khalid needs to say yes, so you cancel the laptop. Now what would happen is, let's say we do ijab and qabul. Nothing happens yet. There's no intiqal milkiyya, nothing. Maulana Khalid says, ajastul bay'. Is there a need to repeat the ijab and qabul? No. The ijab and qabul, which was mawqoof, now comes into effect. It now comes into effect. So this is bay'ul fuduli. And bay'ul sabi al-mumayyiz, sabi mumayyiz is, there's no definite age. It depends on, what's happening. So if nikah, there'll be something different. Ijam and qabul for bay' and shira depends on what's being bought and sold. So if you took my packet of, I think you call them chips here, don't you? We call them crisps. Which costs about, I don't know, let's say $1 or something. So there, someone who's 6-7 years old, that's fine. But if you're talking about a car, okay, even then maybe a 10-year-old you won't allow. Yeah. So sabi mumayyiz, it all depends on what's being bought and sold and what's happening at the time. So if a sabi mumayyiz was to buy and sell something, that is also mawqoof ala ijazat al-wali. So he is the aqid, the shopkeeper is the aqid, the ijaz is coming from someone else. Okay. Now the question, can you send your child to go and buy something? You can, because if you're sending him, you've given him ijazah. Okay. So that's what bay' mawqoof is. So is a bay' mawqoof sahih? It's in some kitabs you'll see this as al-bay' al-sahih ghayr al-nafiz. So it's bay' sahih because all the arkan of bay' are there. There's nothing mufsid in there, but it's not nafid. And the reason it's not nafid is because somebody else needs to get involved here. This is al-bay' al-sahih ghayr al-nafid. So it's not going through yet. Okay, and al-bay' al-sahih al-nafid would be where it's gone through as well. Okay. Now, the next thing is really just, showing the taqseem of all of this. Number one is intiqal al-milkiyyah. Remember, we talked about milkiyyah transferring. Now, what happens is, the whole concept of intiqal al-milkiyyah, you'll see in different institutions of fiqh, in different abwab. So the first taqseem is bil-ikhtiyar and bil-jabr. Sometimes milkiyyah will transfer from one party to another party because of someone wanting that, or sometimes it'll happen without anyone wanting, it just occurs. Okay, what will jabr be? Mirath. Father's passed away, his property has now been distributed to his wife and children, for example. Okay, so that was bil jabr. That happens automatically. So il-milkiyyah transfers. Bil-ikhtiyar is when something is done, there's tasarruf done. Remember the whole concept of tasarruf? So التصرف is done to create or to cause انتقال الملكية. Number one, الهبة. Is that تصرف قولي وفعلي. قولي عقدي وغير عقدي. Why is it? Who says it's عقدي?
They have to accept to get it.
قبض is necessary. قبض is necessary. It's not an act because there's no إيجاب وقبول. There's no إيجاب وقبول. Okay. البيع, that's obviously clear. الوقف عقدي وغير عقدي. غير عقدي. الإيصاء. I don't know if this would be called عقد. Do you see the musa lahu? He has to accept it. Okay. But so I don't know if I don't think it'd be called. So I don't know if they refer to this as a clear ijab or qabul, which is a wasiyah is made and the person accepts, because the condition of being in the same majlis and that don't really apply. So I don't think this falls under aqdi. This is still tasarruf qawli, and it all falls under انتقال الملكية بالاختيار. Okay. See, this is another reason why a lot of students are confused, because the whole concept of انتقال الملكية is discussed in so many different places. Okay. Inshallah, hopefully this will help. الميراث is to do with بالجبر. Okay. Now we're only concentrating with the bay. Okay. Bay. Remember, one is there's no انتقال ملكية at all. That's one base باطل. So we're not going to look at that. If there is انتقال الملكية, that bay will either be milk خبيث or be milk صحيح. Okay. One will be milk خبيث, one is bay fasid. And when is a bay fasid? When will something become bay fasid? Sorry? Yeah, what are the four causes? جهالة إن مبيع ثمن. شرط لا يقتضيه العقد. غير مقدور التسليم. Being unable to deliver the مبيع. And the fourth one? تعليق التمليك على الخطر, where the whole contract is being made dependent on something else. Okay, so these are the causes of bay fasid. If there's milk sahih, that's also normal bay. That's when you'll have, you know, al-musawamah, al-murabaha, al-tawliyah, and al-wadi'ah. Al-musawamah is just a normal contract. You know, I'm selling this laptop for $500. I accept. End of story. What's murabaha? The only difference between murabaha and musawama is when the seller tells you how much profit he's making. So I've bought the laptop for 400 and I'm selling it to you for 500. That's murabaha. So musawama is I'm selling it for 500. Murabaha is I bought it for 400. I'm selling it for 500. So that comes under milk sahih. Okay. Tawliyah is like when it's equal. I bought it for 400, I'm selling it for 400. Well, Wadi'ah is I bought it for 400, I'm going to sell it to you for 300. So there's a loss. Someone would do that because they need to get rid of their assets on their products, for example. So that's like, you know, the whole taxonomy of intiqad al-milkiyah there. Now, remember, the way you can understand this, so the bay', what are the conditions? You've got the conditions of the sihhatul bay'. You've got the conditions of nafadh al-bay'. Understand? These are all other conditions that you can also look into. Then bay' batil. انعدام المالية والثمنية قصور في الإيجاب والقبول قصور في العاقدين. That is what is going to cause بطلان in the bay'. What's the حكم of bay' باطل? لا تنتقل الملكية. So this is أصلا ووصفا. And lastly, البيع الفاسد. What are the four causes? الجهالة في الثمن أو المبيع، اشتراط شرط لا يقتضيه العقد، كون المبيع غير مقدور التسليم، أن تعليق التمليك على الخطر. Remember the last point, تعليق التمليك على الخطر. Some فقهاء حنفية have given examples of this in البيع الباطل also. Okay, but I put here. So this is really بيع باطل, بيع فاسد. If these problems are not there, it's going to be a بيع صحيح. Generally speaking, it's going to be بيع صحيح. Okay. Now, questions to consider. You're presented with a mas'ala. You're presented with a mas'ala. Are the contracting parties allowed to engage in the contract? So what we're checking here is ahliyat ta'aqud. Are they adults? Do they have to take permission from anybody else? Is anyone majnoon? They are allowed to engage in the contract. There's legal capacity. So there's ahliyat ta'aqud. Okay. Are the offer and acceptance valid? Here you're checking the ijab and the qabul. Was the correct wording used? Was the irtibat بين الإيجاب والقبول? So I say, for example, do you want to buy this laptop for 500? And you say, yes, I do want to. Is the ijab and qabul?
No,
I'm just gauging your interest. Do you want to buy? Yes, I do want to buy. But I'm not ready to buy now. I want to buy it next week. So that's where you have to check the alfaz of the ijab and qabul. Is there irtibat bayn al-ijab wal qabul? So are the offer and acceptance valid? Is the commodity something that can be bought and sold? Is there maliyah in taqawwum in what's in the mabi' there? Remember, you're going through the process. You want to check whether this bay is valid or not. This is the process. Is the method of payment something acceptable? Meaning, is there thamaniyah? Is there thamaniyah in how you're going to pay? Is the price? No, those are if these probably the first four, if there's something wrong, what will happen? It'll become bay' batil. Yeah. Is the price known? If it's known, alhamdulillah. If it's not known, it's going to become bay' fasid. Is the exact commodity known? If you say I'm going to sell you something, that's bay' batil because you just don't know what it is. It could be something haram. But when you say is the exact commodity known, I know I'm going to sell you a laptop. But which laptop? What's the specification of that laptop? I'm going to sell you a car. Which type of car? So we know there's mali in a car, but I don't know, or I've not told you which car. So there's jahala fil mabi'. Have any conditions been applied to the contracts? To the contract. So I can use the car once a week. You can't do this. You can't do that. I can do this. I can do that. What kind of conditions have been applied? Are these conditions ما يقتضيه العقد وما لا يقتضيه العقد? Because remember, not every condition will invalidate the contract. If I say, look, I'll sell you the car on the condition you pay me within 1 day. I've made a condition, but that is شرط يقتضيه العقد. So not every condition will invalidate. And that's why you need to check, have any conditions been applied? What are those conditions? Are those conditions valid conditions or are they invalid conditions? Okay. And that more or less brings us to the end of inshallah. I hope it's been useful. Alhamdulillah. I was telling my Khalid just a couple of days ago that because there's only 2-3 hours, literally you just don't know what to start off with and what to end with. And is it going to be useful? Is it not going to be useful? If you have 2-3 weeks, alhamdulillah, you know exactly, you can go through the shurut of babi and give examples. One of the things I really wanted to do was give some real case scenarios. Here's a question, take 5 questions from babi and trying to analyze that what's happening here. Where is the problem? Is the problem in the ahliyat al-ta'aqud? Is the problem in the ijab al-qabul? Is the problem in the maliyah of the mabi'? Is it in the taqawum of the mabi'? Is it in the thamaniyah? Is it a shart? Well, is this a shart which contradicts or which conforms to the aqd? And inshallah, that way you're really able to see these things in place. One of the real things I really wanted from this, and inshallah, I hope that this has helped, that whenever you are presented with a mas'ala, at least you may now know, you can detect where the flaw may be. And that way, inshallah, you can go to the relevant discussions in the kitabs of Buyu. So now, you know, okay, this is a problem in the ijab al-qabul itself. So I need to go and check the shara'it of the ijab al-qabul. So when talk about cryptocurrency, we don't need to look at ijab al-qabul now. What do we need to look at? Maliyah, that's what we need to look at. If I say, look, I'm selling you this laptop on the condition that I can use it once a week, we don't need to look at ahliyat al-ta'aqud. We don't need to look at maliyah. We don't need to look at thamaniyah. What do we need to look at here? The shurut. So inshallah, I hope this has helped a bit in that. Inshallah.
What if not paying with crypto, so you're not looking at Mali is maybe something else, but you look at something is stunning.
Yeah. Thamaniyah.
Would that be
Again, same concept. You'll have to look at is there thamaniyah here? Okay. And if there's no thamaniyah, can it be considered mal? Will there be maliyah?
issues? The mother, he's using them. Next day he comes home that I didn't know. I've shown him the shirt. Shouldn't they before cancel the aqd and do the aqd again? Or if he says, okay, I remove the condition, he can continue.
Yeah, that's fine as well.
It's fine.
So in some scenarios, as long as if you remove the cause of fasad, that's fine. In some, the entire contract will become invalid. Okay, but in generally, you're supposed to cancel the contract. Okay, cancel the contract.
Are they all the sort of code?
Yes, yes. Sometimes you can have, for example, although no qawl has been done, like in bay' al-ta'ati, it's tasarruf qawli, but you go to buy a pack of bread, you take $3 out, you give it to the shopkeeper, and he gives you the packet of bread. No qawl has been exchanged. So yes, in principle is tasarruf qawli, but sometimes an action will demonstrate what needs to happen.
In regards to IOP standards, if any Islamic financial institution is mentioning that they are following IOP standards, is this sufficient to rely on UNCP?
Yeah, inshallah. It might come down to seeing if they have a certification from IOP. It's like consuming meat and chicken. If they say, well, we're following the standards by, I don't know what certification bodies you have here. I mean, the UK, it's called HMC, Halal Monitoring Committee. So if a shop says that we're following the principle of HMC, well, is that sufficient? Well, you don't know if they are. Yes, if they've got a certificate for HMC, HMC has done the job for you. So in the same way, if IOP has some certification, then that's fine. But if the bank is saying that we're following IOP, well, are they really following it? You wouldn't know.
Also, can we ask their Sharia advisors that are important? Like, for example, there are some Islamic institutions here which mention that such and such Maulana Sahib is our Sharia advisor. So can we ask that Maulana Sahib that are you following?
Of course, of course.
And would that be sufficient for?
If you trust them, then yes. Trust them, yes.
So, maybe go in maybe your section, and they
look at the question and try to identify and see that it's
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, I'll send you some. Inshallah, you can share it with everyone. Oh, I thought they had registered in everyone, so.
Yeah, like with WhatsApp and
If you don't mind, and those of you that want to, inshallah, just give your email address or something tomorrow night. We can just share some.
basically you can go through practice. Either you go for some Darwin time and check there or
It's just like, you know, we do Tamreen al-Fatawa. So you pray the qawa'id and then you go and explore how those qawa'id are being used. Inshallah, same thing. Jazakumullah khairan. Inshallah.
next week we have the one you requesting that they come with their laptops.
Yes. One of the main reasons is that one part of it I'll be going through the relationship between hadith and fiqh. And then what I want to do is use some time to go through the kitabs of Rijal. Anybody use kitabs of Rijal here? Asma' al-Rijal? Like Tahdhib al-Tahdhib, Taqrib al-Tahdhib, Tahdhib al-Kamal. No? So it'll just be an opportunity to, you know, see how the kitabs are, they discuss the ruwat, the kind of al-fadha they use, how a hukam is given in a rawi, what impact it has on the hadith. So inshallah, I want to go through some qawa'id and then see how the muhaddithin use those qawa'id on different ruwat. So inshallah, if you can bring your laptops or your tablets, and if you can just download Shamila, al-Maktabat al-Shamila. So, you know, very similar to what we did in the Quran translation course. Some qawa'id, and then look at examples of how this is actually implemented. So inshallah, hopefully, you know, it'll be useful for ulama and talib. Next week, inshallah.
The half an hour?
Yeah, inshallah. Should do.
Half an hour, inshallah. What is 40 minutes?
34, I think.
So, beginning at least. It takes half an hour.
Inshallah. Inshallah.
Since we're doing hadith munasabat, it would be nice touch, inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah.
Sorry to impose that.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Alhamdulillah.
So you need to read it.
Oh, a number of ulama. I'll mention next week, inshallah.
Okay. It's a bit of brief.
We had the opportunity of reading with Muftaqi Sahib also. One of the ulama I read it with, his name is Mawlana Ismail Kankariya, rahimahullah. He lived in Leicester. To understand this properly, where's our writer gone? Has he gone? You'll have to do this in Arabic. Though. Can you write in Arabic? No?
I'm teaching handwriting.
Okay.
You want me to write?
If you don't mind, please.
I'll write.
So most of our asanid, if not all of them, end at Shah Waliullah Dehlawi, rahmatullah. So somehow or another, they'll reach at Shah Waliullah Dehlawi. They'll put Waliullah at the top. His son is Abdul Aziz. His grandson, Abdul Aziz's grandson, is Ishaq al-Dehlawi. Ishaq al-Dehlawi. His student is Abdul Ghani al-Mujaddidi. His student is Mullah Qasim Nanutwi. Actually, well, Rashid Ahmed can go here as well. So, and now what we on the same level. Yeah. The student Shaykh al-Hind rahmatullahi alayhi. If we take okay, let's take Mawlana Hassan do Mawlana Hassan Madani and Allama Kashmiri on the same beneath Shaykh al-Hind. So they both prayed Bukhari Shaykh al-Hind. So just so you don't go here now. No. Beneath Shaykh al-Hind. Yeah, so they're the students of Shaykh al-Hind. Yeah, you can do another. And Allama Kashmiri. Okay. And then yeah, okay, let's stop here. Okay. You know the Mashayikh in Deoband now, in Deoband and Saharanpur, they are the students of the Mashayikh in Deoband and Saharanpur now are the grand students of the last line. So for like Mufti Sayyid Palanpur rahmatullahi alayhi, passed away a couple of years ago. He was a student, they all prayed Bukhari by Manna Fakhruddin rahimahullah. And he was a student of Allama Kashmiri and Shaykh al-Hind as well. So the Mashayikh of Deoband Saharanpur, even Darul Karachi, are all the grand students of that last line. So Mufti Shafi rahimahullah, he was student of Allama Kashmiri. Mufti Uthmani rahimahullah, Mufti Rafi Sahib, all of them prayed by Mufti Shafi rahimahullah. They also prayed by Manasib Khan Sahib rahimahullah. So they prayed by all that line over there. So look how, in order to get to Abdul Aziz al-Dehlawi, look how many stages there are. Yeah. So if we take, for example, the current Shaykh al-Hadith of Deoband is Mawlana Qamruddin Sahib, Allama Qamruddin Sahib. He prayed Bukhari with Hazrat Madani, part of the Hazrat Madani. His teachers, so between Mawlana Fakhruddin and Shaykh Abdul Aziz rahmatullahi alayhi, there's Hazrat Madani, Shaykh al-Hind, Hazrat Gangohi, Abdul Ghani al-Mujaddidi, Ishaq al-Dehlawi, and then Abdul Aziz al-Dehlawi. Okay. What happened in Dabil was in the 1950s or the 1960s, a teacher from Deoband had gone to teach for a few years. He was known as Baba Abdul Rahman al-Amruhi. Baba Abdul Rahman al-Amruhi, he was famously known as Baba Sahib. And he taught Bukhari and a few other kitabs for a few years. He had ijazah from Mawlana Fadl Rahman Ganj Murad Abadi. And Mawlana Fadl Rahman was a student of Abdul Aziz al-Dehlawi. So Mawlana Ismail Kankaria, he passed away in 2011. He was a student of Baba Abdul Rahman. So if you're Baba Abdul Rahman there, Baba Abdul Rahman had ijazah from Mawlana Fadl Rahman, and he's a student of Abdul Aziz al-Dehlawi. So it took out 3 generations.
He was a student.
Mawlana Fadl Rahman. He had ijazah from Mawlana Fadl Rahman, Ganj Murad Abadi. أجا ما شاء الله.
محمد الرحمن what's his surname?
Ganj Muradabadi.
It's in Indian UP database and Rabat is like the Philips. It's very hard.
Brother.
Badi.
And
He was a student of Abdul Aziz. So Mawlana Ismail rahmatullahi alayhi, he was a student, so he passed away in, no, it's not 2011, I think 2018. An ajib story.
And sorry, the Maulana from the UK.
Mawlana Ismail Kankaria. There was somebody else called Mawlana Ahmad Ali As-Surati rahmatullahi alayhi. He prayed Bukhari with Baba Abdul Rahman. He passed away in 2011, and Mawlana Ismail came to Leicester in 2011. Mawlana Ahmad Surti was also in Leicester. I used to go to his house every single day. So I prayed Bukhari with him, Mu'attain with him, quite a few kitabs with him.
What's his name?
Ahmad Ali As-Surati. He had the highest ijaz of Bukhari in the whole world. Ulama from the whole Arab world would come to him.
Maulana?
Ahmad Ali Surti. No, Mawlana Ahmad Ali Surti, he came in the 1980s or the 1990s. He passed away in 2011, and that same year, the other student of Baba Abdul Rahman came and settled in Leicester. There's a Imam al-Dhahabi rahmatullahi alayhi, he speaks about this incident as well. You know, our Sanad al-Bukhari goes to Hafidh ibn Hajar rahmatullahi alayhi. Inshallah, I'll share the article. I've written an article on a son to Imam Bukhari. Ibn Hajar rahmatullahi alayhi's teacher was Ibrahim ibn Ahmad al-Tannuhi. Ibrahim ibn Ahmad al-Tannuhi. Ibrahim ibn Ahmad al-Tannuhi's teacher, he was known as Ibn Abi Talib al-Hajjar. Now, al-Hajjar, he prayed Bukhari with a muhaddith in the year, I believe, 630 Hijri. I think he prayed with Az-Zabidi. Somebody called Az-Zabidi. Now, Az-Zabidi, rahimahullah, he was known for his ulu in sanad. So he would be called throughout the Islamic world to do maqra'at of Bukhari. When he passed away, obviously that sanad had gone. 70 years after he passed away, somebody found Al-Hajjar's name in the Diwan. There is somebody called Al-Hajjar who's still alive, and he prayed Bukhari with that muhaddith. I believe his name was Zabidi. Imam al-Dhahabi says the muhaddithin flocked to him. That news spread in the entire Islamic world through the muhaddithin, that there's still a student of that muhaddith left. And he will be called in different cities to teach Bukhari. The last time he taught Bukhari was approximately 80 or 90 years after the first time he heard it, Bukhari himself. And the exact same thing happened with Mawlana Ahmad Ali Surti. He prayed Bukhari with his teacher, Baba Abdul Rahman, in about 1361, 1362. In about 1425, 1426, one of those years, is when somebody found out that he prayed Bukhari with Baba Abdul Rahman. So the exact same thing happened. He was called to Medina Munawwara, he was called to Makkah al-Mukarram, he was called to Kuwait, all to teach Bukhari. Just Sanad al-Bukhari, Sanad al-Bukhari. So one of the ulama that I prayed Al-Wa'is Muliyya was with Mawlana Ismail Kankaria. So and that's a whole other Islamic discussion itself. I mean, yeah. So inshallah, those of that can come next week. Bring your, it'll only be useful if you come with your laptop, so that there's some mashq that will take place as well. Inshallah. Any last questions before we close up? No? Jazakumullah for attending. It's given me an opportunity to sit down with the ulama and talaba as well and share some thoughts. Make dua for me as well, inshallah. وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلق سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين.